Just few days ago, I was way over 100,000 words in my fifth novel, my fifth book. And no, you never heard about my books because I never published them or never attempt to publish them. And that was original plan that this book in particular, New Down, idea was that this was first out of sequence, or sorry, second in the sequence of four books that I'm gonna write four drafts, and then I'm gonna write second draft of all of them, and then continuously sport forever and never attempt it. I realized I talk about it in my podcast, and I talk about it. It was a really hard confession where preparing and doing useless work is nonetheless procrastination. There are two parts of my personality that are easily destroying my life. One is fear of change, and one is depression when I feel like I'm not changing. And you can tell that those two perfectly amplify each other. So I've decided, and this wasn't giving up. I did this before with same attempt at the same story actually, when I finished it and rushed it so I can go on. And normally I stand by finishing what you started, but I realized that I'm just gonna be rushing through the story just to say I could finish it. And not, then what? Then I'm gonna just write five more books that will be unreadable and unpublishable. You know what? No more. So now I'm outlining my sixth book, and this one I'm gonna attempt to publish. Maybe it will work, maybe not. At this point, I don't care, but I've decided that enough is enough. I talked about how I want to be a writer. I talked about how I write every day or almost every day. I talked about how it's really mean to me, but I mean really important to me. But you know what? I was just procrastinating and I was being fake. I was being hypocrite and I was being fake, and I don't want to be that person anymore. That's why this new story, it was one of the idea I had for a long time. It's part of the anthology. It's called, working title is New Dawn Silver Souls. It's gonna be fantasy novel, and I'm gonna write this book. I'm gonna rewrite it until it's done. I'm gonna attempt to publish it, and I'm gonna take you through every step of the way. There's gonna be content for my channel. Hopefully, it's gonna be fun podcast. As a day I had that idea, I found out that some people did it before, but hey, that's called being a writer. Better idea you have, faster you find out that someone already did it. And I'm gonna tell you a little bit about the story and some of the rules, principles, and technique that I'm gonna do while writing this book. I'm not getting into Pencer versus a planner debate. I What works for you is best. I'm actually originally Pencer. For those who don't know, planners or outliners plan their story ahead, while pencers fly by seat of their pants, which is English term that it still loses me, and it's basically you write the story and you see where it takes you. Both are valid, both are good, but I'm originally Pencer, but I find out that it my personality is I can start procrastinating by just writing things I like or things I even don't like. I just feels me, and I'm spinning wheels on the place. Writing becomes procrastination from writing. Sounds insane, but that's what it is. That's my personality. I don't like it. In fact, I hate it. And I decided to fight against it. That's why I'm going to be outlining this story. Also, I am overwriter, and I found out that again, it's not that I have a lot of things to say. It's that I have my weird fear of change makes me just write same chapter over and over and over and just keep writing and keep adding nonsense and filler. And first time I realized it, I said everything I wanted to say in this chapter, and I told myself, I'm not gonna end this scene, and I had physical reaction. My hands start shaking because that would be change. That would not be procrastination anymore. So for me, not having set beginning and ending and goals puts me in the bad space. If you're a pantser and it helps you, sure, go ahead. I am pantser again naturally. That doesn't mean that everyone who's pantser has a disease, but I just realized that not because I'm disciplined, but because I'm lazy and because I'm a chaotic person, I need strict structure. I need to hold by it and I need to obey it because otherwise I will never be able to do this. Speaking of, let's do this. Genre of New Dawn Silver Souls is going to be fantasy, more specifically flintlock fantasy, or muskets and magic, something. Actually, first time I tried to write this, I went and looked forward if something like this exists, because I had strong suspicion that I didn't just invented it. I always loved swashbuckling romance. I always loved Three Musketeers, Sinbad, or in my country, Sindibad, Zorro, and as much as I love One Piece Zorro, I'm talking about OG, Whip, and Rapier. I think that Rapier is the manliest thing ever. I think that if you truly want to show your masculinity, you better have big peacock feather in your head. And I love tough guys and brave women and intrigue and muskets and intrigue and muskets and fighting and muskets. I love muskets and swords and great swords, which will be in this story. Point being, I set up for what I wanted to be and still want to be anthology of New Dawn. New Dawn in this fantasy universe is basically equivalent of Renaissance. Before that, what I was talking about it because I cut myself off with my excitement about Renaissance era and swashbuckling romance. Point being that I find out about Powder Mage and similar books. There was one other series I heard recently. I think its name was Conquest. Hold on. Shadow Campaign series by Django Wexler, and first book it's supposed to be called Thousand Names. By the way, Powder Mage was freaking fantastic. It is one of my favorite things ever, and Django Wexler, no one with that name. If that's real name, your parents knew you will be destined for glory. And if it's fake name, just on that, you're a great writer. Now, I set up, it's not historical, it's not point to point, but I just like the idea of not quite present day, but not quite medieval times either, which clearly I'm not first one and I'm not the only one who likes this setting. I'm casting that pretty wide, I would say from end of medieval times to modern era. In this case, main character is Langsnacht, which was in real life 15th century mercenary. They were using Zweihander greatsword. Specifically, main character Lars uses Montante, which was bodyguard version, but he he would be closer to 15th century, but this fictitious war which he's involved is actually inspired, which is very obvious, by American Revolutionary War. I am not American. This is not supposed to be one-to-one, and I'm hopefully no one finds this offensive, because even if alternative history, I'm not American. I spoke with few Americans and they were all fantastic people, but idea I had is that it all starts pretty clear in media res. Through in media res, we start with war already going. Mercenaries from old war, including Lars and his wife, already there. Thing is, I'm gonna use more about it in future videos, but I'm gonna use 4-act structure. Basically, way I'm looking at my books is that each of my book is basically 4 smaller books. So I'm effectively writing quadrilogy, which is like trilogy is 3 books, quadrilogy is 4 books. So effectively, this is gonna be like 4-book series inside one book, just 4 smaller parts. And what I'm gonna do is that first one starts first quarter of the book starts fairly reasonable and fairly to the point with those are good guys, those are bad guys. Some hints and implications, even though I'm probably gonna leave that for second or third draft, but pretty straightforward, nothing too crazy to worry about. What happening there is a similar to even other places in the world. Even my country has some history with that. Colonies got sick with multiple empires feeding off, so they try to get revolution. Thing is that in this setting, I compared it to American Revolutionary War, except what if each of the country, each of the colonies, each of the state was still owned by someone else. So it's not, again, all fictitious places, fictitious empires, but if I was writing this story in real war or in alternative history, it's not about Americans against British, it's Americans against British, Dutch, French, Spanish, Swedes. So we have this like alliance versus coalition. Alliance are rebels, rebel alliance. I know, terrible original. And coalitions are imperialistic powers who, as much as they hate each other, rebels had idea that if they team up, knowing that their masters won't team up that easily, they will have automatic advantage. And even in real life, it wasn't exactly one-sided battle, but Americans had a lot of just the moral advantage and a lot of fighting on their own home turf, a lot of partisan warfare. I might be wrong on this, but again, love me some muskets. From what I understand, revolutionary Americans first invented sniper tactics as they use today. I remember watching documentary, I think it was called just The America. Sorry, I didn't watch it in English, where they show how there was this legendary, I believe, illiterate hunter on side of revolutions, and he would come with the idea that he would just, instead of going in the massive battle like they still did in Europe, he would see giant platoon of British soldiers and he would take out their officer and they would take out their guide. So he would basically destroy entire platoon by two shots. Like there would be multiple snipers there, and he would show, okay, you kill guide, I kill their leader. They would kill one or two people, and they would disable whole platoon. I love that. And here, basically, rebels have also big advantage that, like I said, they can unite more or less, but their enemies cannot, at least not initially. There's a lot of, for lack of better, how to put it, cockfighting without swearing too much. I actually swear a lot in real life, but I try to keep it at minimum. So fighting among them, it looks good. Also, they have some money instead of paying taxes. They managed to hire some mercenaries, some neutral mercenaries, and a lot of those mercenaries, they either just want to get paid or they really don't care. And I'm gonna add one or two dialogue where a lot of those empires, not all of them, but a lot of them really look down on mercenaries, and especially this was originally in different book, but I'm gonna drop it here that the mercenary group that main characters are from, called Skybreak. I really wanted some cool sounding word, something like Maverick from Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. So Skybreaks are from this like neutral city state. They who also fought against multiple empires, and it's like this weird state. Country fell apart, but their capital and their main province managed to stand ground. That they change laws and they go, you know what? Every country, every lord is really then careful about mercenaries, since mercenaries might aid peasants, so they go, hey, mercenaries, come here. So with few changes in law, this small country managed to give themselves pretty strong defense, because they basically gave middle finger to all empires. And I'm staying the hell out of the politics. I don't allow real life politics in my stories. This is place for entertainment. Okay? I don't care who you are or what you believe. I want you what I want from you is to have fun. And what I'm gonna do, and this is very important. Also, yes, they kind of anti-hero, but even since I was kid, I always thought that, wanting something, hey, I'm gonna put this up free, probably not the book itself, even though I tried to do the past and I would love to, but I don't know if it could hurt me with publishing. But at least this podcast and this series gonna be up for free. But yes, I want to publish this. I want to make money out of this, and I don't think that makes me. I don't need to be billionaire. I just try it and have it one my job one day. And you know what? I don't think that makes me a better person. And it started as a joke, but I thought that someone wanting to help and someone being wanting something out of it and being good. How to put it? Just because someone has personal goals doesn't mean they're evil. And I probably what put this in my country say that you put back inside your head. When you say something that makes me think, it says that I say that you put back in my head. And I remember I had child therapist when I was kid. I was very bullied. I was very scared kid. I'm dyslexic and dysgraphic. So yeah, a podcaster and writer is really pretty good choice. Guy who can read or write right correctly. A really fantastic choice of career. As you can tell, I'm not English speaker naturally, but I'm getting better. Thing is, I'm going to be writing this in English. My therapist once told me I really couldn't open up to her, and I wasn't rude, but I just didn't know, couldn't get it in my head that she would want to help me. And she told me, listen, and she talked to me. It was a young lady, and she was very smart and very kind, and she straight up told me, listen, this is my job. I'm getting paid for being here to talk to you. You're right in there. But also, I went to school and I applied for this job because this is something I wanted to do. And she was very open and very, very clear. But she says, you know what? I'm getting paycheck for helping you, but I could have that paycheck in the bank or in the factory or in the post office. I love young people. I love kids like you, and I have fun helping. So just because I'm getting paycheck doesn't mean that I don't care about you. And I like that gif of universe exploding in my brain. So this lady was really great, and she helps me a lot. She helped me a lot. And she probably accidentally gave me pantyhose fetish, but that's for different video. She was really hot. I was just about to hit puberty, so you get the idea. Point being, and this kind of Lars, yeah, it's romanticized, of course, but you know what? When you write story about samurais, real life samurais were probably kind of a bastards. When you write story about knights, they were kind of a bastards, probably. Same with musketeers, same with pirates. And I'm actually, or it used to be much more in past, a really cynical person, but I love this idea that Lars and Mia, his wife, and those Skyberg mercenaries, their boss Lang, they pretty much agree that, yes, we are mercenaries, we are getting paid, we are here for money, but also most of those empires don't like us. And most of us became mercenaries not because we like to kiss up to someone's butt and kiss up to someone's shoes. So so it's kind of like job is the pleasure. So pretty much all of those mercenaries agree that yeah, we wouldn't show up here if rebels didn't pay us, but since we're already here, f the empires. And those and so far so good. Problem is, and this is gonna be big theme in the story, is that I'm usually like to write flashbacks and characters and again originally I'm a Panzer and Discovery writer as I go, but I enjoy it too much and I get lost for it and go nowhere with plot. So I'm gonna write story and present day story first, then I'm gonna go back and add character backgrounds. I like to write story like this, kind of like Batman Begins or TV show Arrow, or one of my favorite movies, the co-production European action movie Largo. First book about writing I ever read was How to Write Damn Good Novel, and it's a fantastic book. and they were really don't use flashbacks, but also this is gonna be kind of like two timelines, present day and past. But here's what is important. Team, like I said, it's gonna be one of the themes. It's gonna be fear, as in personal fear, fear of betrayal, fear of losing your family, fear of losing your country, fear of you losing this or fear of this happening. So it's not tangible fear that you can point finger at. And how I get to this, and one of my podcasts from Let's Write series is gonna be about it, where weakness equals strength. And I realized a few books ago that I want to write badass, strong, powerful characters, but I also don't want them to be too powerful. So if character is too weak, no one cares and no one have fun. And if character is too weak, you don't want to relate to him. And if character is too strong, you cannot relate to him. Basically, if anyone here watches anime, I don't want my characters to be Shinji, but I don't want my characters to be Kirito either. And what I decided, nice balance. Obviously, every magic, great Brandon Sanderson writing Jesus, which I love that man. What I figured out, and what I'm losing a lot, and had really good results with, and I'm gonna losing a lot in this book, is that yes, every weapon has its weakness. Obviously, every magic system has its weakness. Every power has its weakness. There's going to be magic here, of course, but also a lot of my characters are powerful on the surface, but they have a lot of personal trauma, which pulls them back and makes them do sometimes bad decision. And basically, all 5 main characters are all like that, where there would be Lars, Mia. We're gonna get to that in when we're gonna talk about characters, but Lars is wife Mia, Rebel Knight Mikhail, and Rebel Mage Felix, and also Helena Felix's friend, and she's gonna have kind of a thing with Lars and Mia. We get to that in future video. Point being that they all, when you look at them, you're like, they are like the best action heroes ever. And a lot of people, a lot of their friends look at them like, yeah, you guys are so cool and so strong. But they have a lot pain and a lot of childhood trauma, and they subconsciously sometimes recreate circumstances from their past, which is messing them up. As you can tell, recreating childhood circumstances, I have a connection to that, and it's not easy for me. That's why I like this team in action story. I'm not big, strong. I don't have beautiful redhead wife who's also pretty strong in her own right, and I don't swing around greatsword for living, but I can understand this. So this is the background trauma that pulls character down. But I wanted to talk about setting. I should have left it for future video, but what can you do? Or future podcast. I'll just post picture here. Point being, those characters have a lot of problem. They're in this rebel war, and like I said, overall theme will be recreating circumstances of past, personal fear, but also being pressured into making bad deeds, being forced or guilt tripped or pressured or forced to do decision you don't want to do. So now, spoilers for the book that I'm about to write. Like I said, forex structure, we're gonna talk about that in future more. Like I said, first quarter, it's fairly straightforward. Some foreshadowing, some hints. There's rebels, there's empire, but after that, after first act and during second, it becomes increasingly more clear that in order to win a war, they will have some bad things happen, some people make bad decisions, some really unpredictable, unfortunate sequence of events happens that is not anyone's fault. Much like in real life, it's no one's fault, but hey, it already happened and we must deal with it. Rebels will decide that they will have to take out the small. Most of those, like I said, they all fighting their own enemy, and in order to survive, they will have to take out and blame, frame, and destroy army of one of their smaller allies, one of the smaller states. Basically, again, not don't mean this as offense to Americans. Don't think that for a second. And if you do, I apologize. I honestly apologize. But idea is that imagine that again that example of American Civil War. Imagine that in order to for Americans to win, they would have to destroy Virginia. Virginia, believe, was fighting in American Civil War and was considered, sorry, American Revolutionary War, and it was considered to be smaller and weaker state. Imagine that American rebels are forced to not only sacrifice but destroy Virginia in order to continue. And you have Virginia, or the quote unquote Virginia, most likely we'd call Eggard, sorry, Eggard will be this one colony, and they hired, because they had money but they didn't have people, so they hired these Skyberg mercenaries. So they find themselves struck this incredible betrayal, and also they don't want to fight rebels, but it's just this insane situation when they find themselves stuck in between enemy empire that they still have to fight and their own people that were forced to turn on them. And I'm a big believer that villain is hero of different stories, so I'm going to be showing a lot of story for it's not just like one moment rebels decide to just nuke this one, quote unquote nuke this one small part of them, but it's difficult decision, they don't want to do it but they have to. I'm having worries about this. Again, it's first draft, and if this doesn't work, I'm just gonna write the next book. Again, this is my sixth book. Only now I'm gonna try to publish it, but we'll see. An idea is that, like I said, first act starts straightforward. Those are good guys, those are bad guys. And then some of the good guys are forced to betray and forced to turn against each other. And it's kind like this toxic environment, figuratively speaking, when they don't want to fight each other, but this is insane situation. And I'm going to talk about that in further in future podcasts. And I'm really looking forward to writing this, and I'm really looking forward of making this podcast. And I hope you will be on this journey with me, and I hope I can give you some value. In the meantime, thank you so much for listening, and stay awesome.